Panda. I got broads in Atlanta. Just to throw me in the family. Credit cards and the scammers. Getting no licks in the band. Legacy.
What is up, guys? It's me, Robert, and I am back. Sorry, I haven't actually been active on this channel or actually posting. I just hadn't had time, to be honest. And I guess now, since it's summer break, I guess I have time. I'm actually gonna be telling you guys my coming out experience and where it led up to right now. But yeah, anyways, I'm gonna start off by saying yeah, I'm gay, or I'm bi, or I'm just out there, I'm whatever you guys want to call it. I don't really care. I'll start off the story by actually saying when I first realized. So it was I think 6th grade when I first realized I was into guys, I guess. And I guess that was normal. I just thought maybe it was a phase, what they all say. But it wasn't until 7th grade where I was more into I was more in school, so people knew me. And that's when I would I had all these girlfriends. I had I actually counted, I had 10 girlfriends. And I'm okay, I'm not gay. But then there was times where I was gonna check out guys, so I'm what if I'm bi? And at that time I had my best friend who I told her, I'm she was the very first person who I told that, and I told her that I was bisexual, I think, and she honestly didn't care. She said that I'm still me, and I'm not gonna that's not gonna change the fact of her being my friend. So I'm okay. 8th grade year, I maybe started dating less girls. I didn't want people to think that I was a fuckboy, even though I was called that, and it didn't really get to me. But I would still think about being with a guy, and I'm just maybe that's not me, because I've always imagined myself being with a woman and having kids and raising the family and whatnot. Yeah, and then I didn't actually start thinking about it till I got into maybe 10th grade. The summer of going into 10th grade, from 9th to 10th, I started thinking about it. So that's when I actually came out on Snapchat and I said I was bisexual. And at that time, most of my friends already knew. They just knew like that because of the way I acted. And they accepted me on the quits. They told me they didn't care. I'm okay, that's fine. That was actually when that was actually what? Yeah, that was the beginning of 10th grade. So not everyone is judgmental, actually. They didn't really care. They had no mind in it. But it wasn't, the real shit happened till later on in the months of 10th grade, where I came out to my aunt. And when they came out to her, I was really nervous, but at the same time I was glad. So I had told her, and she said that she already knew. So I'm oh, okay, so that was easy. So I told her, she didn't care, and I felt more comfortable now because I could, I can tell her, I can talk to her about these type of things. And I had, I was just talking to her how I wanted to come out to my grandparents. And then after I told my Nina, I came out to my cousins. And they still loved and supported me. And then after that, I came out to my mom. So I don't live with my mom or my dad. I live with my grandparents because they raised me. I still get in contact with my mom and my dad, but I had told my mom through the phone in the garage, actually at night one day, and I told her, I was already crying. I told her that I'm bisexual. And at that time, she didn't hear me the first time, so I told her again I'm bisexual. And then she heard me, and it took her a while. She just stayed quiet and she started crying. She just called me stupid, saying what I was doing. And I told her you can't call me that. I'm me, you can't change who I am. And I think I hung up on her, and she texted me later that night saying that she was sorry for what she called me, that she still loves me no matter what. So she kind of realized that she had to accept me, and she did. So that was out of the way already. So I came out of her, and it wasn't until days after where she had told me, saying that my uncles and my other aunt and my other uncles already knew that I was gay. So I'm oh, okay. So I'm kind of glad they know that they knew, but that they didn't question me. So I was kind of confused. I'm why didn't they ask me? But I had texted them, and I said that yeah, it's true, I am gay and all that, and I still want you guys to love and support me. And they were really supportive. They told me that I'm still their nephew, that they're not gonna stop loving me no matter what, that no matter if I have a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. So yeah, that was good, and I was finally clear. Now all I had was my grandparents, and it wasn't until I didn't come out to them. Well, I did, but it was not the way I wanted to. I came out to them through a picture, to be honest, because my grandma had followed one of my friends on Instagram, and I had forgotten all about that. So when she saw the picture, because it was the night of homecoming, so I was with my ex-boyfriend, and we were already 4 months into our relationship. That's why I came out too. we're 4 months into a relationship, and I was it was a homecoming picture with all of us sitting on the bench, and I was holding his hand like really close to him, and my grandma saw that on my friend's page, and she's like, "What is this? Why are you guys holding hands?" And I told her, like, I panicked. I'm like, it's just a joke. Like, we do this. And then she's like, no, it's like, that shouldn't be a joke. People are going to be calling you names. I told her it's okay. Like, this is how we mess around. And she's like, okay, whatever. So she was mad. She was sad. The next day, she was awfully quiet. So I didn't talk to her at all. And the next day, I had actually, I had quince practice. So I went to quince practice, and I told my mom, I called my mom telling her I'm going to come out to my grandparents. Like, they have the right to know too. So I told her, like, I need you to tell them, like, I need you to tell grandma, at least for me. And she did. So, when I got home, I was really nervous. I went into the room, and, like, it was quiet. And I know my grandma was staring at me. She was just sad. And, like, I had told them that I got to talk to them. And it got to the point where I'm like, I got to tell you something. And then my grandpa instantly knew that it was about the picture with the guy. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And then he just told me, like, it's just a phase, don't worry. Like, when I was your age, I would, like, I would call other guys good looking. And I'm like, yeah, but this is different. I told him, like, I am actually bisexual. I actually said the words, I am actually bisexual. So my grandma started crying. My grandpa got up and left. My grandpa wasn't mad at that time. I guess he just thought I was confused. And he told me that I wasn't going to go to school the day after. So I'm like, why? And he's like, because we're going to go take you to see a therapist. So when he told me that, I'm like, oh, he thinks I'm sick. And I told him, like, I'm not sick. I don't got to see a therapist. Like, there's nothing wrong with me. But, and then, like, when he was outside, he was crying. I realized he was crying. My grandma told me to go talk to him. I went out there and I told him, like, like, I'm still me. And I told him that if he wants me to go see a therapist, I'll go see it for him. And I told him, I just want you to accept me. And he's like, yeah, I'll accept you, but it'll take time. I'm like, okay, like it'll take time. That's fine. And they thought that maybe my ex changed me, like turned me gay. I'm like, no, like I was born like this. I was always like this. No one can turn you gay, actually, like that's pretty lame. But so like the next day, it was morning, I was like in the living room, and they came to talk to me, like an actual talk, saying how long I've been with this guy, like have I done anything with him, like why am I like this? And I told him, like, I've always been like this. Just because I dated girls does not mean that I never had thoughts about being with the guy. And like, like they were tearing up. Like, I've never seen my grandpa cry, so that was like pretty surprising too. And like and that day I didn't go to school, so I went to go see the therapist. It was pretty good, actually. That was my first and last time seeing the therapist, because he said there was nothing wrong with me. Just because I came out to them does not mean that I'm sick. He said, I'm like, yeah. And he had told me that if anything, they had to go see a therapist because they're the ones going through this. And I told him, yeah, but then like deep down, I'm like, I'm also going through something. Like, I'm like, like I didn't want to be with them at the time anymore. Like I wanted to move out, but then again, I'm only like 15, and where am I gonna go? So it wasn't until like days after I went to go see the therapist that I had that we were gonna go out to eat. So while I was in the back, I forgot. No, yeah, because I was supposed to go out with my ex-boyfriend, to Not Scary for him, and like my parents said it was okay that I could go, but then like I guess I was like talking back to them, and I regret that. I was talking back to them, and my grandpa was like, you're not gonna go out anymore, like you're gonna come with us. So I'm like, no, but then like, yeah, so then I went with them, and like as we're like leaving the street, he told me that he's like, no son of mine is gonna be a faggot, and if you're gonna be a faggot, then I want you out of the house of 18. I'm like, okay. So I just started crying. Obviously my grandma was tearing up too, and she was quiet. And at that time, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, honestly, like, he wants me out of the house. I should just be out of the house now. So I had texted my uncle asking me if I could stay over. He said, yeah, it's cool, but I never ended up going because, that would just look really weak of me. That followed from them calling, like, giving me lectures, telling them like, talking behind my back, like, them telling me, like, really hurtful things, that it got to the point where I wanted to commit suicide. And if, I know my family's watching this and all that, and, like, honestly, I don't want you guys to worry anymore, or I don't want anyone worrying about me anymore, because these were thoughts back then, and I don't have them anymore. But at the time I wanted to end my life, but then I was thinking to myself, like, that would be really selfish to my boyfriend, to my mom, to my brothers, to my grandparents, to like everyone. It would be really selfish, and I can't do that to anyone. Like, I have a big heart and I care for a lot of people, and I can't do that to anyone. So like my mom had told me to like just ignore them. and I'm like, okay, I'll ignore them. But there was times where I didn't want to ignore them. I had to like tell them something. I had to like set my foot down. I had to like put them in their place. I had to tell them that what I'm going through is something big too, that they're not the only ones going through this. There was times where my grandma would just cry and just tell me how she was going to send me to a camp to cure me. And I would cry too. I would be like, like that's not fair. Like I told her, like, you can't do that. Like, this is who I am. You're not gonna change who I am. And it got to the point. Yeah, it got to the point where like I just ignored them throughout everything, and they would get mad because I ignored them. But then I wouldn't care. Like, they can get mad all they want, but I know that what I'm doing is for me, and like, I gotta stop. Like, I just gotta stop like talking back to them, like with fighting them against this. Honestly, because this is who I am. They're not gonna do anything. And there was times where my grandpa would be like we're gonna send you to Peru to go live with your mom so they can cure you. But honestly, I told them, like, that's not gonna work. You send me over there, you send me anywhere, I'm gonna find another guy. And I told them, like, if you do that, I'm gonna do it on purpose. I told them, like, I'm gonna find another guy on purpose just to get to you. And I'm like, I wasn't thinking at the time. I'm like, that's really stupid of what I said. But yeah. And then like it wasn't until like I was like 6 months into my relationship with my ex where I came out on Facebook, because the rest of I have more family in Peru, then I got family in Texas and like in Washington. So that's when it came out on Facebook with the picture of me and my ex. And it had like I wrote like a small paragraph saying that I am bi, like I don't want you guys to like judge me for who I am, and if you are going to, then don't comment. So it got to the point where my family saw that and they commented, and I was really surprised. Like, they all supported and loved me. They said, my tia, my aunt was like, like, you're still our nephew, like we still love you no matter what. I'm like, okay, like my family loves me. And my grandpa had gotten mad because he had seen it. So I told my grandma that, like, I don't care if he gets mad, like I'm doing this for me and I feel really good. And my grandma was like, yeah. So at that time my grandma was like okay with it, but she just wasn't like, like fully like there yet. So I'm like, okay, at least she's somewhere. But my grandpa's still in the same place. But he got mad, so I had like blocked him so he wouldn't see what I posted. But then like I got like a couple likes, comments, and it wasn't until like the next day where I woke up and I saw that my Facebook was blowing up. I had over 4,000 likes with about 1,000 comments and 1,000 shares. So I'm like, okay, I got this much attention. And yes, there was like rude comments, and then my mom, being the mom she is, she would comment back and talk back to these people. And I told her, like, ignore them. They're just people who want to like start stuff and they're not even worth it. So she stopped. But there were so many like nice comments that got to me. Like, it actually like brought me up. Like, honestly, like most of these comments actually were like telling me about how their coming out experience. They actually came out too on my comment section. So I was surprised too, and I was really glad for these people. And I got like messages like on Messenger saying like, you've inspired me to come out to my parents, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, like that's good. Like, I'm like, I'm helping you, and I'm glad I am. And I told them that it wasn't so easy for me, and I'm glad it's easier for you. But yeah, that happened. It's been like, I think 10 months since I've came out, and my grandparents, like, we don't talk about it anymore. Like, I think my grandma still kind of thinks about it sometimes, but she doesn't tell me. I know my grandpa is trying to change me. There's times where my grandpa was like, go get yourself a girlfriend and I'll let you take the car. Go get yourself a girlfriend and I'll give you money. Like, he just wants me to get a girlfriend. I told him I'm not gonna get a girlfriend. Like, I told him I don't roll like that. But then so I thought about suicide 3 times actually, and I knew that it was a mistake because suicide is never the answer. And honestly, if you ever thought about that or ever tried harming yourself, like, please go talk to someone. Like, like you shouldn't be doing that. Honestly, I learned that the hard way because I've actually tried doing it, and I told my grandma, and she got really upset about it, but she didn't do anything about it. So I actually had a great support of friends, and I had a counselor at school who helped me through it. So like, shout out to all of you guys who were there for me, and I'm always there for you. But this is most of my coming out experience, and like my family support and love me. It's just really hard for me to get my grandparents to do the same. But other than that, like, just be you. Like, don't be afraid to show your true colors. Like, like, if your parents don't accept you, just know that they still love you, and they're always going to support you. Even if it's not now, then it'll be in the future, but you just got to give them time. Like, like, deep down, you're always going to be their son or daughter. You just give them time. That's it. That's what I'm doing with them. Like, I know that right now they're not gonna support me and all that, but you know, as I give it time, they're gonna have to eventually do that. But oh, and as I kept mentioning my ex-boyfriend, that'll be another story for another time, like my next video. And yeah, but anyways, that's it. And I really hope you guys enjoyed my coming out experience. And if you want to know more, then just like DM me or message me on Snapchat or whatever. Instagram and my Snapchat will be down in the description below. So hit that like button, subscribe, and comment. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.
Panda, panda, panda. I got broads in Atlanta. She took the lean in the family. Credit cards and the scammers. Getting no licks in the band. Legacies.